Bring in our next guest. We have maritime law attorney Michael Winkleman, who's joining us now to talk more about some of the legal consequences. Michael, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Lexi. Happy to be here.
All right, so first and foremost, and we do want to continue to stress this, the priority, as we know right now, is trying to locate the 6 individuals who are still missing at this time. But there's also a lot of questions, concerns that still come with this investigation and where things stand right now. And you're here to talk more about the legal side of things, the legal consequences here, and what we know. So I'll first open the floor to you with reaction to this news today. Of course, this happening in the early morning hours. And legally speaking, what comes next from here?
Thank you, Lexi. Certainly waking up today, this is definitely one of the great maritime disasters in U.S. history. Really shocked to see the news and shocked that it happened, because this is what I do for a living. This is what I do on a daily basis. When people get hurt on cargo ships or on cruise ships, I help them and I represent them, and I hold shipping companies responsible for their negligence. Here, things like this just don't happen that often. It seems like there were clear failures as it relates to the propulsion system, and it must have just happened at the absolute worst time, because there should have been enough speed where they could have taken evasive action. There should have been enough time where they could have dropped anchor to stop. There really should have been redundancies in place to be able to have prevented this incident. And the main question will be why it is that happened.
Yeah, and I think you're going to help us understand some of these different details that maybe most of us don't think of on a daily basis. We're speaking with a guest just a little bit ago here, talking about how this type of transportation, this is something that many people maybe take for granted on a daily basis, just how seamlessly they are able to travel. And for something like this to occur and to have such great impacts for many months to come, obviously there's a lot of concern with this. I do want to ask you, though, about the details we know so far. The power outage that allegedly happened right before the Mayday was issued, and ultimately that Mayday, according to officials, really was key in helping them stop other traffic from continuing on onto the bridge before the collapse occurred here. So when it comes to that power outage, I mean, what types of preparations are in place, safety procedures, things of that nature? What goes into effect here, if power goes out? How are crew members trained to react to that?
So there is no vessel like this that doesn't have literally a Bible full of policies and procedures that are designed to deal with exactly this type of scenario. And I just think this was the ultimate combination of factors that allowed it to happen. What's noteworthy is there's what's called a harbor pilot on the vessel. In fact, there may have been 2. This is a person whose singular job is they live in Baltimore or they live in that port. Their job is when this vessel is off on the coast, they take a smaller boat, they join the vessel, and they're the ones that actually steer it into the port. Why? Because that's their expertise. That's what they know how to do. That's what they're trained to do. And the singular reason that they are required by law to do this is to make sure that accidents like this don't happen. So clearly the pilot and/or pilots on this vessel are going to be the star witness in this investigation, and ultimately any legal ramifications or lawsuits that come from it, which will be a ton of them. But in terms of policies and procedures, there should have been redundancies in place. If propulsion was lost, if you have enough momentum going forward, they should have been able to steer. I think there was some ability to steer, because you can see clearly from the direction it went that it was veering off in one direction. I would have to assume they were trying to ground, and intentionally ground, rather than intentionally trying to obviously hit this bridge.
Sure, and going off of that, is it difficult to verify if it was the power outage that caused this?
No. Frankly, I don't think this will be a particularly difficult investigation for the NTSB, Coast Guard, FBI. I know there's a lot of different agencies involved when you're dealing with a disaster of this magnitude. But no, you're going to have, frankly, the most important witnesses are going to be the pilots. You're going to have the recorder that recorded every move that was made. It's going to be very clear when the propulsion system went out. Literally second by second, we will know precisely what happened. Just like if an airplane went down, it's no different than that. The technology is there to be able to track it. What I think where this will linger on for years is in litigation, not only for the families of the loved ones who were lost today. I know it's at least 6 construction workers who are presumed dead. They are all going to have significant litigation, wrongful death litigation related to the cases. And then more so than that is going to be the federal government likely going after the shipping company and all related interests for their negligence that caused or contributed to this incident. And that's going to have a trickle-down effect of the ship owners suing the propulsion manufacturer, suing the steering manufacturing. So there's going to be years of litigations. And I think this, in an instance, in something that happened in probably less than 5 minutes, we're talking about billions of damages, absolutely billions of damages. But nothing is worse, of course, than the loss of life for these men who are working in the middle of the night filling potholes on this bridge. I mean, the salt of the earth type of people. And, my heart hurts thinking of their families who are sitting there just still crossing their fingers that they're still alive. But being frank, the chances of that I think are very small.
Yeah, thinking of those families, many of whom we heard were on scene there just after this all happened today, speaking with officials who are on the grounds as the search and rescue operations continue. And Michael, there's a lot of people probably wondering too, this was a bridge that opened in 1977. So obviously an old piece of infrastructure. Are there improvements there that should have been completed before this all ever had a chance to occur?
Well, it's hard for me to speak to that, Lexi. I'm not an engineer. I was born in 1978, so this bridge predates me. I have seen the video, and boy, it looks like this ship just like cuts through this like Swiss cheese. So in a perfect world, yes, would there be bridges that were built that were strong enough to protect against this? I would assume so. Not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is doing things like representing the families of these victims who died and making sure that everyone is held accountable and that they're able to obtain the maximum compensation available under the law.
Sure, yeah. And my question more so, I guess, was just thinking of how that could play a role in a legal battle, knowing that this was an older bridge that opened in 1977. But I know there's a lot of moving parts here, and it can be difficult to address all of them. Is there anything else that you'd like to share when it comes to just the legal side of things? What comes next from here? Obviously, we're just at the beginning stages right now.
Well, we are so early. I mean, to me, as it relates, there's obviously going to be the investigation phase, and then we're going to move to the litigation phase. I think as it relates to the families who lost their loved ones, it's something of a well-known process. It's something that I handle on a daily basis. Yes, this company is from Singapore, but doing what I do as a maritime attorney, we handle cases literally all over the world. The only silver lining for these families is that this did happen in Baltimore. It did happen in a U.S. port. They will be able to have cases against this company in the United States. They will be entitled to the full panoply of damages that are available to them. I think the litigation as it relates to the federal government against this company, that will be something very interesting to see. I heard President Biden already comment that the federal government was going to step in to rebuild it, but I think he meant that more in terms of just let's get this done ASAP. And then once they're able to rebuild it, then they will seek to be able to go after the responsible entities. But I can tell you there is a number of shipping interests, there's a number of insurance and reinsurance interests that are really having a really tough day. And frankly, when it comes to negligence like this, they need to be held accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. And we really appreciate having you on to share more of that perspective. Obviously, such a tragedy for something like this to occur, something that you don't ever really seem to think could happen. And yet here we are talking about it. And we're certainly thinking of all of the families impacted at this time. Michael, thanks so much for joining us to talk more about this. We really appreciate all you had to say today.
Thank you for having me, Lexi.